Huge new Typhoon Fung-wong heading for the Philippines. Very large typhoon named Fung-wong, Philippine name Uwan, is continuing towards the Philippines today, now a Category 1 and strengthening despite its large size and structure. Currently at 11.9 degrees north, 135.1 degrees east, placing it to the north of Palau, northwest of Yap, moving nearly due west, a little bit north of that, at 16 miles per hour, 25 kilometers per hour. Signal 1 warnings are in effect, and the storm currently we're giving winds of 75 miles per hour and a pressure estimate of 977 millibars as of 8 p.m. Philippine time this November 7th. Here's the storm's location displayed on another map, with the wind field extending out quite far in the northern quadrants, up to 200 nautical miles in those quadrants right now, and the size of this storm will catch up on the southern side as well in terms of those winds. It is currently 1,001 kilometers from Siargao Island, 1,017 from Samar, 1174 from Catanduanes, 1237 from Legazpi City, and 1557 from the capital, Manila. Signal 1 warning stretch as far west as eastern Quezon at this point, and as far south as the northern tip of Mindanao. The storm is expected to intensify substantially over the next few days and could become a strong major typhoon as it nears the coast. Here's the primary hazards for damaging winds, although wide-ranging impacts are expected all across the northern half of the Philippines this weekend into early next week. Depending where you are, the primary hazard may be strong winds near the landfall location, or it may be torrential rainfall leading to flash flooding and landslides, particularly further south into the northern Visayas region. Of course, the strong winds will be affecting the eastern coast of Luzon and the northern part as it continues to move through. You're going to see on this map now, as we watch the animation over the next few days, of where we expect the storm will go, and that wind field widening out over the weekend. By early next week, the storm will slow down as it enters the South China Sea. Steering currents get very weak, and it's an uncertain forecast as to what happens by midweek. The storm may die off quicker than this as it goes towards Taiwan, or it could sink off towards the west, down towards Hainan. Currently 75 mile per hour winds that we're running with right now. JMA slightly higher. JTWC not actually visible on this graphic, but they're going at 70 miles per hour at their last update. I imagine they will upgrade on their next forthcoming update. ADT numbers, however, though, are much lower than what we'd be expecting, probably due to the storm's massive size. They're not really getting a good handle on how strong this storm actually is. They're down at around 55 miles per hour. Here's the latest in terms of the Signal 1 warnings that are currently out there right now, extending as far west as Panay as well in the Visayas there, for northern Cebu as well at this point, but all of those usual areas that you'd expect on the Signal 1 warnings right now, Masbate, Samar, Leyte, and other areas around there. The JTWC forecast cone calls for the storm to reach Category 4 status, 130 mile per hour winds, and then continue into a landfall in northern Aurora province. Here's the GFS forecast for the next few days. The red zone there is those major typhoon force winds, Category 3 plus, holds on as a typhoon for a good while afterwards as well in the South China Sea, and according to the GFS model, it shrivels up very close to Shantou as it continues to stall by that point, as it starts to try and turn northeastwards. You may have seen on that forecast run as well, there's another typhoon popping up behind it. However, we have not marked this system for a potential chance of development just yet, and it's only the GFS that's forecasting that second system. Here's the radar reflectivity simulation, just showing that very high amounts of rainfall over a short period will be occurring over the northernmost Visayas region into southern Luzon, and that is, in my opinion, a big concern over those next few days. Of course, the very strong winds will be a little bit further north, and on the northern side of the storm as well. Let's take a look at that banding. Yep, significant rainfall I would expect in the northern part of Luzon, moving up through the Batanes Islands and along the eastern coast of Taiwan as well. You'll be looking at elevated rainfall totals. Again, that second system, if it does develop, will also be a pain for the central Philippines next week. Rainfall expectations then, the actual numbers that we'll be expecting. You can see the storm's track quite clearly there as it steams through the central part of Luzon, and we're looking at quite high amounts of rainfall. I must say, not as high as previous model runs have been saying, but right now we are expecting over 500 millimeters of rain in parts of the mountains of Luzon. In the other areas down into the Visayas region, looking at maximums of maybe 200 millimeters, and in the Manila area we're maybe looking at around 1 to 200 millimeters as well. Taiwan should point out 300 millimeters there as well if you missed it. Sea surface temperature expectations are obviously still very good even at this time of year, obviously getting late into the season now, but this area never rests. Temperatures of at least 29 degrees Celsius all the way up until landfall and beyond. And probably higher than that because these numbers read a little bit low, so 30, maybe 31 degrees Celsius on approach to the Philippines. Here's the latest satellite imagery of this very large storm. Sometimes you have to zoom out to really get a sense of how large this typhoon is. The northern side still looking a little bit flaky there with a massive pronounced gap, although I imagine that will be getting filled in. The eye, obviously a very fractured one at the moment. It hasn't built together a proper core at this point, but it is continuing to wrap up quite nicely, and I think it's quite easy to determine that this is a typhoon at this point. Very high cloud top stretching around 3 quadrants of the storm. It's just that northern side that's got a big gap there right now, so it's an open eye wall structure, and that may be generous as well. It's just a lot of convective bursts that are going on around that eye right now, well into the minus 90s it has to be said. There's a lot of strength in that. And I do expect that this storm will continue to get better and probably continue to be relatively ragged all the way up towards its Category 4 expected peak. Look at the wide shot, compare it to the Philippines. It is virtually as large as the Philippines, maybe even slightly larger from north to south, from tip to toe. And looking at the rainfall right now, live radar from the Philippines, just a few little areas of rain right now. The storm really hasn't influenced the weather too much in the Philippines just yet, although it is starting to as we look at this graphic. The high cirrus now reaching the coast of Mindanao, and also for Samar very shortly, if not already too. So rainfall will be gradually increasing, as will the moisture, and also the winds that will be getting up probably starting tomorrow along exposed coastal areas. The storm continuing to move west-northwest or closer to west at this point. We expect that turn a little bit more towards the west-northwest shortly, although if it doesn't, of course, the storm may end up pivoting a little bit further south from expectations. Elsewhere around the world, we've got 2 other areas of interest in the Western Hemisphere, one in the Eastern Pacific, 20%, and one in the Southwestern Caribbean, 10% over the next 7 days. We also have an area of interest that is currently active, that's just become active in the Southeast Indian Ocean, that will be crawling along the coast of Indonesia, 20% chance on that, and of course, Typhoon Fung-wong.